Hey guys, what's going on here? It is me, TL1974 here, and welcome back to Customs and Reviews. I am sorry it has been a while since I've done this. It's been almost like 4 months, but I really wanted to do a remake, but I decided against it as to do a Customs and Reviews. As since I've made a lot more customs, however, the remake I plan to do will be coming out later this week, so look out for that on Wednesday. Anyways, this is a customs reviews on my Engines of the Future. You might remember I did a review on this back in 2023 or 2024, I kind of forgot. As you remember, I did Thomas, Gordon, oh, sorry, Gordon, and Percy. Now, you might remember too, I did James. Well, I'm here to show those off. I'll set those guys over there. So yeah, everyone recognizes these since I did the customs. But today I'm going to show off my updated Engines of the Future James. Yep, I updated him. As since recently in the series of Engines of the Future, they gave James sort of an overhaul in the series. Now he looks way better, similar to this. So I decided to update mine. Well, it took me a while, but I just updated him. What I did was I took him apart and gave him multiple shades of red, but if you look very closely, you can still see some of the original red within him. In fact, if I am to flip him around a bit, I think you can see a little bit of the blue left. I am not sure if you can still see it. Well, technically on the buffer beam back here, you can still see the original blue. If you want to know what the original custom looked like, go back on my original video of customs of the Engines of the Future, and then you'll see it. Sorry, I'm just a bit nervous to do this. I also redid the face, giving him a bit of more of a smirk. I redid the eyes, and I even gave him a white running board as he did in the show. And I redid his whole running board into a new blue, and put lining on him, and redid his dome, and even did his whistle. Of course, I redid his number 5 and lining. But I am honestly really happy with this, and I am so glad that Well Tank Productions updated his Engines of the Future James. Because honestly, I think this version looks way better than the original version did. Because to be honest, I love doing the original version, but it feels good to actually have a proper looking James, just like how Gordon, Thomas, and Percy are. But that's not all. I've made 2 new customs. That being Duck. I'll get to the second one in a bit. Yeah, I always wanted to do a custom Engines of the Future Duck. Now, I know he came out back in season 1 of Engines of the Future, but it took me so long because I didn't have an extra Erdl duck, as I wanted to stay consistent with, the Erdl range. So I just waited until eventually I finally got a... Well, if you guys remember from my earlier Tangalong remakes, you remember I actually used an Erdl duck because I didn't have a Tangalong duck. But for Christmas last year, I was able to get a Tankalong duck, so this was the duck that I actually used in the Tankalong remakes. But now that I have a Tankalong duck, I decided finally to use this duck for the Engines of the Future. Now, since in the show he doesn't exactly have a Northwestern Railway logo or a GWR in the show, he just has his number, so yeah, I just put his number. I gave his green paint a lot of green, and I made sure to do his running board the best I could, and also paint it black, and I did his buffer beams in that usual blue, just like how these guys have it. I think I also might consider soon to give these guys a bit of a recoat. Not really with their paint because it looks fine. I more mean the running boards, to give their running boards a bit of an update coat. But I'm really happy with Duck. I even painted details like his handrails, his funnel, well, it was already painted, and other parts of his body, including, like I said, gave him a white running board. And honestly, I'm really proud of my, Engines of the Future range so far. Now, before I show off the second one, this is where I'm going to explain this part. I made the Engines of the Future diesels. As you remember, there were diesels in the show, but however, the problem was with me when trying to do them, the Erdl range didn't exactly make them to where they were easy to make, so I had to use different sources. So I did them in Wooden Railway. Here is Runio. Runio was a little easy. I just used some off-brand wooden railway engine. I painted all the details I could. I understand it's a little sloppy. I made sure to put on the blue running board the best I could, put his buffers, and did his face. I messed up a bit with the eyes a bit. But to be honest, this custom, I'm not the proudest of this one, since mainly I wish I could have done more, like try to put like the British Rails like thing on there like it has in the show, or try to add more details, and I'm especially in the future going to fix the face. But so far, that is so far with the Runio custom. As I said, I wish I could have made it into Erdl, but they didn't I didn't want to use a diesel since I felt like that would be cheap. Now we have COD. Yeah, COD is a little bit I'm a little more proud of him. I had to use some another off-brand wooden railway engine. If you guys remember, I'll put a picture on a community post about what the original looked like. But back in the day, I actually made a GWR logo on him because I saw some random picture, but I realized when my one of my best friends, Henry Fam One Productions, go subscribe to him, he showed me a picture of COD, and I realized this diesel looked very similar to it. As since I tried looking the best, but I couldn't find a wooden railway model that matched COD's actual class. So I decided just to use him. I painted him the best I could in blue. I did his roof gray, and I put on windows, and added all other details the best I could. And I did his face the best I could. And to be honest, I'm really proud of COD. I know he doesn't look the best, and I do hope one day I can do some paint updates. As you can kind of see, there are some chips here and there, not fully painted. And I'm definitely going to try to get like a paint Sharpie eventually and try to update the numbers. But for COD, I'm more proud of him than Runio. Like I said with Runio, I wish I could have done like a little better, but like I said, I am proud of a lot of my customs. Now we have Artemis. Like I said, it was the same case with these two, just use an off-brand wooden railway high-speed engine. I had to cut down the back a bit. I know it's not fully cut, but it was really hard to since I don't have like exactly a blade. I had to use like a really sharp knife in order to be able to cut it, so yeah, you can kind of see why that was a problem. But I cut it down the best I could to try to match it. I put on his logos, lining the best I could, windows, her face, and her numbers, and roof details. Like I said, try adding all the details the best I could. And being honest, I am proud of Artemis. He's just a really cool engine. He's a police engine, just like Joey from Victor Tanzik. Yeah, he's cool. In fact, you can actually see some of the original, like from the original engine. It was all white before. Anyways, on to the one of the final wooden railway ones, Conrad. Conrad was actually one of the first. I did him first, then I did these two second, and then I did him last. These guys I technically did first, and then Duck and another engine I'm going to show off, I did last. Technically, but Runio was the last of the wooden railway engines of the future customs, for now at least, until they eventually introduce more characters. Conrad was a lot more easier. I used the same type of engine, which, if you guys remember in my American customs and reviews, I used those diesels to make the New York Central, the Santa Fe, and Union Pacific diesels. I used the same thing for this guy. Essence, really, thank God, is that in the episodes in Engines of the Future, his class does look very similar to the Super Chiefs. I added the blue on his front, similar to how he has in the show. Added all of his lining, doors, windows. I painted him all white to match. Even put horn details, and of course his face, which I feel like I did very well. But that is Conrad. To be fair, I don't really have much to say about him in a sense. He was more simpler than compared to these guys. One of the easiest Erdl ones I would have to say was probably Thomas. Or even James, probably. Or even Duck, since I didn't have to put any number. Well, yeah, there's his number 8, but you get the point. It wasn't as hard as compared to a lot of other ones. The hardest one had to be Artemis. But that is Conrad. Now to the final one, which is from a recent character that was reintroduced, that being Ben. Now, I know both the twins were introduced, Bill and Ben, but I only have enough to make Ben right now. Now, I'm going to show you guys something which I actually had not revealed before. So, I need to be honestly truthful with you guys. If you guys remember in my Erdl episodes with Bill and Ben, you might notice that Bill and Ben looked pretty similar, and the truth was, this was always a Ben. This was never a Bill. I just painted Bill, and I'm pretty sure you guys can notice that in my remake of Diseasel and the episodes where I had the custom Bill into it. It was mainly because I could not find an Erdl Bill anywhere at the time. But recently, I finally got a proper Erdl Bill. And I actually showed that off in my recent episode of Thomas Erdl, that being Boko's Day Off. And as I said, I love Thomas Wooden Railway, and I always will forever and ever. But I know that's off topic, but anyways. As I said, I finally got an Erdl Bill, so I decided to make a custom out of him, my old Erdl custom Bill, and make Into the Future Ben. Alright, let's get these two out of here. So anyways, what I did to him was that I painted him at first in a weird undercoat, which you can kind of see still, like if you look very closely, you can kind of see still some of the original undercoat. It was because I wanted to match the sort of like very, very like light yellow that was seen in the show. So I tried my best when it came to it, so this is what he looks like. I chose this yellow because this was honestly the best I can get it to. I added his green lining, his nameplate Ben on each side of him. I did my best when it came to adding the lining on his little sandboxes. I added cab windows, his whistle, the white roof, and I put as much brown as I could, especially on his buffer beam. That was hard. And then I added the black around it and even put the little lettering. Now, as I said, that was not easy to do, especially when it came to painting around the face, but I'm glad I was able to get it. I added the lining here too, and I also did his back. As I said, a lot of these I did my honest best that I could with this model. Well, custom, but I am really honestly proud to see how far my Engines of the Future custom has gone. Now, I do plan on making more. Like, if I ever get another Erdl Ben, I'll make that one into a bill, or if I ever get another Erdl Bill, I'll make that an Into the Future bill. There are plenty of more characters I could make, but there are some reasons why some of them I can't. Either one. Like, I can't make some of them either because they never made models to look like that, and it would be really hard to replicate into customize. Some others will come along, like that one Class 08 Diesel, I forgot his name, honestly. I can make him since I would just need to get an Erdl Diesel. It's that easy. In fact, I actually have a couple at my grandmother's house, so I'll probably get him eventually. I'm sorry for rambling, and I'm sorry for earlier when I mentioned my Thomas Wooden Railway thing. I just wanted to state that I love Thomas Wooden Railway, and I always will for forever and ever, no matter what. No, sorry, I'm rambling again. But anyways, that is it for this edition of Customs and Reviews. I will hopefully try not to make it as long next time. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to watch, like, subscribe. Click the bell icon so you never miss a video. And we hope to see you all again next time. This is TL1974, signing off. Bye-bye. Alright, shut off the kit. Oh, crap.